Hello, everybody, and welcome to another CLNS Red Sox Roundtable. My name is Alex Barth, and I'm joined by the silent Qs today, Trags and Quags, Mike Petralia, Nick Qualia. How's it going, gentlemen?
Couldn't be better.
The Italians, baby, let's go.
I'm ready for some baseball. I'm glad that spring training's underway.
Trags and Quags, you might have to start calling me Bags. Trags, like you mentioned, spring training is underway. Red Sox got their college games done on Thursday. I don't know if you saw that kid who started for Northeastern, freshman from Dorchester, BC High, threw 19 balls, just one strike, got pulled. I think he was a little nervous.
Yeah, you know what? Didn't you guys feel badly for him?
Oh, I felt terrible. No, it was they should have came and got him a little earlier. But you know what? Ultimately, he seemed to be in good spirits about it. He was laughing in the dugout later, and he can say for about 6 hitters, he no hit the Boston Red Sox.
He can say
a lot
that.
of people can.
Yeah, just don't go into more detail. You go into more detail, exactly. People are going to tear that down. But no, yeah, he no hitter against the Red Sox. Nobody else can say that in college, in Northeastern.
But that was really the spectacle of the first couple of games of spring training because the Red Sox main offseason, can I call him an acquisition? Alleged acquisition, JD Martinez, has yet to suit up. He's yet to be introduced. Manager Alex Cora still can't talk about him. Trags, you're plugged in. What the hell's going on?
Well, I think there is concern, and based on the people I've spoken to and trying to read the situation, which is all you really can do in a situation like this. I think the Red Sox are probably instilling a little bit more language in the contract before everything is finalized to protect them against injury. The Red Sox, of course, went through this with Mike Napoli, and eventually that contract, and the terms were much lower, but that contract had to be reworked at the last minute because of injury history with Mike Napoli. The same might be going on right now with JD Martinez, and you can't blame Dave Dombrowski for doing his due diligence. And yes, I'm a little concerned. I mean, am I worried that the thing's going to fall apart? No, I think they're going to have to get this done. They've gone way too far down the road to completely pull out now, barring, JD Martinez saying that he has a stress fracture in his foot. I mean, he has dealt with a Lisfranc injury last year, supposedly, and they're doing their due diligence on that to make sure that when the season begins, he's ready to go. And if he's not, the Red Sox want some insurance.
Yeah, and Alex, we talked about this on the last roundtable. Red Sox fans have to remember this guy has a long injury history, so we don't expect him to play for the entire season, realistically, but I don't think people were expecting this because, yeah, like you said, Trags, I'm concerned. I'm concerned as hell about this because the fact that there was so much hype around him coming to Boston specifically, the idea was it was kind of like Gordon Hayward. You just kind of expected him to end up with Boston. But the fact that it's taking this long to introduce him to the media, yeah, that's a little concerning. I'm totally with you where I think that this deal is going to be official once the announcement's done. It's gonna happen. But we're going to see a little change in the contract. The Red Sox, in my opinion, need him. So I think they're going to work to get this done, but they're going to protect themselves. They have to protect themselves. And Dave Dombrowski has played every part of this deal right so far, waiting him out, waiting to get the deal that he wanted, not overpaying for him. And it would be dumb if they didn't rework this deal in their favor at this point. Because, again, nobody else wanted JD Martinez as much as the Red Sox. Nobody offered nearly as much. They need this deal to get done. They'll get it done. The contract might just be a little different than we first heard.
And that would explain, not to interrupt, guys, but that would explain why Scott Boras made the trip. Because if he's on site, he's certainly probably in negotiations and in meetings with the Red Sox to try and hammer out this language, because that's got to be what's going on now, and that's got to be what's been holding this up. I mean, look, the results of the physical can take a day or two, but it should not take this long. No. From Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. when he rolled into JetBlue Park to get to this point where, we're on Saturday and there's still no word from the Red Sox. Now, maybe later today something develops and all of that changes and he's introduced to the Red Sox and to the Boston media and smiles are all around and we had him all the while, and stuff like that. And we're ready to move on and get ready for the 2018 season with JD Martinez. But until that happens, there's going to be some trepidation among Red Sox Nation, and there should be, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really win-win for the Red Sox. Either they get their guy at a much more affordable point, and I think the original contract was already pretty team-friendly, or they avoid signing an injured player, a guy that's going to spend most of the season on the DL. I think they've kind of gotten themselves in a position where there's really no negative outcome, because even if for some reason they don't end up with Martinez, one, it means there was probably something seriously wrong with him. I don't know if you'd want him anyway. And two, we've talked about it, Nick, we talked about it in the last roundtable. Somebody here's an odd man out. They're going to end up putting a good player on the bench. So while they do need him, he would help the team. I'm not sure if need is necessarily the word, because they can still fill those spots with capable major league players.
Well, I mean, you're not as deep. If that happens, you don't have
right.
Obviously, Mitch Moreland becomes your first baseman, and Hanley Ramirez slots into the DH. Well, what you're trying to do now is you're trying to put Mitch Moreland on the bench as a big bat that you can bring off the bench in late innings. You want to do that. You want to have Hanley playing first base, and you want to have JD Martinez, a subpar defensive player by all metrics and all baseball measurables. He's not a great defensive player. You want him as your DH. You want him playing 140 games if that's possible, and smashing 40, 45 home runs, which, by the way, if they sign him, they get this deal done. I think if he plays in 140 games and he doesn't hit at least 40 home runs and drives in 100, it's definitely a disappointment for a $22 million a year player.
Absolutely. And when I say need, I don't mean need in the sense where they won't be able to roll out a team. They're going to have below average players in every position. What I mean by that is, with JD Martinez, I give this team a chance at winning the division. Without JD Martinez, they can still be close. I don't think there's a chance, though, that they win the division. I think the Yankees have that if you don't have JD.
No, I think the Red Sox pitching is still superior to the Yankees.
So do I.
And I think it really is going to come down to that. I think the Yankees are going to win their 12-2 games, their 15-1 games. They're going to have games like that, but then they're going to face good pitching, and I think it's cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. Good pitching shuts down good hitting, and I think the Red Sox over the course of the season would be able to put out enough pitching and a strong enough bullpen to fend off the Yankees, even if JD Martinez falls through. The reason you have JD Martinez is in the playoffs, you want an extra option off the bench. You want an extra option to drive in runs because it makes your lineup tougher to pitch to. That's why the Yankees did what they did in the offseason. That's why the Red Sox are trying to go out and get JD Martinez, because it lengthens your lineup.
And it makes pitchers actually fear somebody in your lineup, too. David Ortiz said it himself. There's nobody in the Red Sox lineup without JD that pitchers are going to be like, damn, well, I have to get this guy out because JD Martinez is coming up and he has the potential to put the ball out of the park. There's nobody in the lineup right now, and JD Martinez does that for the team.
I want to remind everybody that this roundtable is brought to you by SeatGeek. Go to their website or use their app with the promo code Garden Report to get a discount on your order. Again, that's SeatGeek with the promo code Garden Report. Alex Barth joined by Mike Petraglia and Nick Quaglia on this CLNS Red Sox roundtable. And guys, we go from the top of the roster and JD Martinez to the spots at the bottom. Those last couple of bench spots are going to be very contentiously fought over here coming into spring training. A lot of names being thrown around, some more familiar, some less familiar. So let's go around the table. I guess that's why they call it a round table. And Mike, we'll start with you. Who's one player you're looking at that needs to have a good spring training in order to be on the opening day roster?
Blake Swihart. A lot of people have already written their stories, their early spring training stories out of Fort Myers about what Blake Swihart can offer. The fact that certainly the Red Sox don't have him in their catching plans. He's on the roster. He'll do some catching in spring training, but that's not his future with the Red Sox. And he knows it. The Red Sox know it. So you're looking at a possible corner outfield position or a corner infield position for somebody like Blake Swihart. I think he's got to come out and show that he can still mash the ball. He did so in the first spring training game, the college game against Northeastern. And, he's always been a pretty reliable bat. The Red Sox have always believed in his ability to hit. He can actually, he came up as a catcher who could run. I mean, that was a rarity in and of itself. But could he be traded toward the end of spring training? That is a possibility as well. But I look at somebody like Blake Swihart. He is somebody who has a lot to prove. You have games like this in spring training where you put Blake Swihart in and he gets 3 bats a game, and he could have. He's the kind of guy who could have 4 to 6 home runs through spring training and creates a lot of buzz. And then maybe if the Red Sox see a potential in him on the roster, or obviously injuries happen in spring training as well. If an injury crops up, maybe the Red Sox decide that he is a bat that they could provide some depth off the bench.
See, my guy is, and I'm with you on Blake Swihart, but my guy is kind of an older guy in Brock Holt. Brock Holt's going to be 30 years old this year, and there's 2 guys, Blake Swihart and Devin Marrero, who are kind of chasing him this spring training. Devin Marrero can fill those. Brock Holt's biggest advantage that he had was that he can play anywhere in the field. His bat's never been that good. At points it was reliable, but last season he hit 200 coming off of a vertigo problem with the concussion that he sustained in 2016. But in his advantage, again, was playing everywhere in the field. But now you have Devin Marrero who could. You have so much depth on this team now, especially with JD Martinez being added. You have Devin Marrero who can take over in the infield if needed. And Blake Swihart, if he does make the roster, if he does show that he can hit, the team loves Blake Swihart. You can tell they have tried to force him into this lineup. They want him to be in the majors, but there's just been nowhere to put him. You can stick him in the outfield if he proves that he can play the outfield, if he proves that he can hit. I think with those 2, Marrero and Blake Swihart, if they perform well in spring training, there's a very real chance that Brock Holt could be moved at the end of spring training, because at that point, there's just going to be nowhere to put him. There's just going to be nowhere to put him at that point.
And it's kind of wild to think about there being nowhere to put the guy who can play every position.
Yeah.
But, Nick, I think you're right. I think he's more or less worn out his welcome in Boston. He looks like he came into camp out of shape. He hasn't been able to hit in a couple of years. I'm sure.
Hashtag dad bod.
Exactly. I'm sure they'd love to somehow keep him around on the minors. Maybe in the minors if they can. Maybe there's a phantom DL stint coming for him. But I think he's on the outside looking in. My guy or 2 guys I'm looking at the spring training, not necessarily to get on the roster, but what their roles will be, are Carson Smith and Tyler Thornburg, the Tommy John twins. We saw a little bit of Carson Smith at the back end of last season. He looked good, not great. He's supposed to be this lights-out reliever, as is Thornburg. Who knows what we'll get from him, but as it stands today, what is it, the 24th of February, the Red Sox don't have a defined 8th inning guy. I'm being told that it's Kelly. I'm not sure I believe in him 100%. Certainly not Robbie Ross, any of those other guys. I'd like to see it be Thornburg or Smith, especially Thornburg, given what they gave up for him. But we just don't know what we're going to get from him. He hasn't pitched in a year. So I'm going to have a close eye on those guys. And I think if everything goes well, your 7, 8, 9 is Thornburg and Smith in whatever order, and then Kimbrel in the 9th, ideally. But those guys have to prove they can hold on to those roles. And it's been a couple years since the Red Sox have had defined 7th and 8th inning guys. It seems like as long as they've had Kimbrel, the spot in front of him has been a revolving door, and it's caused problems. I would really like to see the Red Sox shore up that late inning order. And part of it was frustrating because John Farrell didn't really know how to use his bullpen. Maybe Alex Cora will be better. But I'd really like to see there just be a concrete blueprint of this guy, Kimbrel, and you're good, and you get out, and you win, dance, repeat, as they like to say.
But let me remind you guys that Alex Cora has made a point in his first couple of months on the job of saying that he is not averse to using Craig Kimbrel in non-traditional closed situations. You might see him in a bases-loaded, one-out situation in a one-run game against the Yankees in the 7th or the 8th. That could happen. And I think, John Farrell was more of the old school. He wanted Kimbrel in the 9th. He wanted to define that role. And Alex Cora is, I think, more receptive to the newer school thinking that, well, if the game is to be decided in the 7th or 8th inning, I want my best reliever out there. And obviously, there's no debate that their best reliever in that bullpen is Craig Kimbrel. I wouldn't give up on Carson Smith yet, Alex, simply because Carson Smith proved he could do it in Seattle. Dave Dombrowski went out and traded for him back in 2015 to shore up kind of a leaky bullpen at that time. And, you project forward, Carson Smith did pitch against the Astros in the ALDS, and, he got a couple of outs. And I think Carson Smith is somebody, along with Joe Kelly, who, if that newfound velocity that he, displayed last year, up to close to 100 miles an hour consistently, is something the Red Sox can depend on, then look, he is an eighth inning guy. It's not the eighth inning guy with the Red Sox. It's an eighth inning guy. And, you're looking for as many candidates as possible to pitch late in games. And that's what I think you should be looking at, not specific roles for particular pitchers.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to jump on that, though, real quick. Sorry, Alex.
Yep.
You have, realistically, I think you have three guys that you could put, if you wanted to find that eighth inning role, you kind of have a competition right now with three guys, because you did trade Tyler Thornburg to take that position in the eighth. You've got Joe Kelly, who last year proved he could do it. That seemed like the perfect role for Joe Kelly. And then you have Carson Smith. So you have three guys who potentially could do that. And I know you mentioned the pitching staff, Trags. This pitching staff, people are underrating it. If the fact you have Craig Kimbrell and then three guys who could pitch in the eighth and define those roles, man, that's going to be a lethal bullpen if they can all mold well together.
I agree.
We'll get to that real quick, Trags.
Real quick. Understand that any one of those three guys, if you bring on Kimbrell in the seventh inning or the eighth inning, they could prove capable of pitching in the ninth.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If Kimbrell's going to throw earlier, they definitely need to get those second, third, fourth spots on that bullpen depth chart ironed out. And I just want to clear it up. I actually do really like Carson Smith. I think he can be the guy. In my mind, it's Kimbrell. If everybody's healthy, Kimbrell, Thornburg, Smith, Kelly, but 2 through 4 are all pretty close. I want to remind everybody that this roundtable is brought to you by SeatGeek. You can go to their website or check out their app and use the promo code Garden Report to get a discount on your order. Again, that's SeatGeek, either .com or on the app. Use the promo code Garden Report. Alex Barth with you on this CLNS Red Sox roundtable, along with Mike Petraglia and Nick Quaglia. And Nick, in the last segment, and guys, if you missed it, if you're watching these as videos on YouTube, you can check the previous one out on the CLNS YouTube page. You said people are underrating the pitching staff. And maybe you just meant the bullpen, yes, but I'm going to pretend you meant all of it because it works as a great jumping off point for our discussion. There has been no bigger pet peeve. Look, there's the people who say J.D. Martinez is better than Giancarlo Stanton. There's the people who say David Price will bounce back and win 18 games. There has been no bigger pet peeve fan line for me this winter than the Red Sox have a great rotation. They have a great top one, maybe the best top one, but they have a great top one. After that, it is full of question marks. And as it stands today, I'm not sure they have a fifth starter for opening day. Now, that's ironic. You're going to say opening day, you're not starting your fifth starter. Fine, they don't have a fifth game in starter because it sounds like Eduardo Rodriguez will not be ready to start the season. Stephen Wright's status is still up in the air with both an injury and a suspension, plus he throws a knuckleball. So that's a huge question mark. You have Porcello and Pomerantz right now as your back end 3-4, which Pomerantz, okay, I still have zero trust for Rick Porcello. So, guys, who's the Red Sox back end? Who are their 4 and 5 guys? Because as of right now, it looks like they're going to have to go deep, deep, deep organizationally to find the back end of their rotation, at least for the month of April.
Nick?
All right, I'll lead this one off. So I'm leading. There's one guy, he's 24 years old, pitched for Portland, and he's never really, last year at least, he wasn't a starting pitcher. But if you want to give him a shot, he pitched well last year. His name is Jake Cozart, pitched again for Portland all season last year, had just north of a 3 ERA. And in his last 10 starts, he only gave up 3 runs. The guy really came into his own. So realistically, if you want to try to chance it, and if you want to see what you have down in Portland in him, again, only 24 years old, then you could try to throw him into the mix. But then there's the obvious answers. You got Brian Johnson, you got Hector Velasquez, who realistically, they'll probably try to roll out there if need be. But if you want to test the waters, see what you got, Jake Cozart, to me, impressive guy down in Portland. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see him up this year. And even not in the bullpen, if they put him, not in the starting rotation, if they throw him in the bullpen, wouldn't be shocked about that. But we've seen them do it before. Try to take relief pitchers, turn them into starting pitchers. So Jake Cosart,
yeah, Daniel Bard, that went really well.
Daniel Bard, baby, my guy. I love
so
Daniel
well.
Bard.
All right, Trags, who do you have at the back end?
Well, at the back end, I mean, I think you're underselling Drew Pomeranz. I think he showed last year to me he's a legit 3. I think Porcello's their 4th starter, if you ask me.
Yeah, big time.
I would agree with that.
Unbelievable to say that about a guy 2 years removed from a Cy Young award. But Porcello's year last year was rocky, to say the least. I think he did, kind of even off and level off midway through the year, and towards the end of the year, he was starting to become, good, not great, but dependable. And maybe that's all they really need from Rick Porcello. Look, most of this season is going to hinge on David Price and his consistency. If David Price returns to form, and if Chris Sale can rediscover what he was in the first half of last year, you'll be fine at the top of the rotation. But to get to your point about who closes out the back end of the rotation, right now, if I'm the Red Sox and you're starting the season, you give Brian Johnson one more chance. A, he's a lefty. B, he has major league experience. He's 27. He was 2-0 last year. His ERA wasn't great, 4.33 with a 1.48 WHIP. Okay, those aren't great numbers, but you're not
a complete game.
Yeah, but what you're not looking for from somebody like that is you're not looking for a dominant outing. You're looking for innings, and he did give you in 5 starts. He gave you 27 innings. And, I think they got it before you start the clock on any minor leaguer. And I understand your point, Nick, that certainly, they could look as the season progresses into their farm system. But when you're starting the season, you want to give veterans a chance to latch on, so you don't have to dig into that minor league pool right away and start major league clocks, for arbitration reasons. So if you're asking me, Brian Johnson is somebody with major league experience. He's a lefty. And I think you probably give him one more chance to really prove that he can stick on a major league roster.
Yeah, I think Brian Johnson's the guy going forward. Hector Velazquez showed flashes, maybe if you have to give him a start. Even a guy like Ty Buttrey, who was a starter before he broke his hand punching a sprinkler head, really hasn't had any success in the bullpen. They could maybe move him back out to the mound. But look, for me, the answer is elsewhere. I think Trags, you talked about earlier on, and you can go back and find the video if you're watching on YouTube, CLNS Media on YouTube. Blake Swihart is a possible trade candidate. I still think Jackie Bradley is a possible trade candidate. I think you go elsewhere, you go external, you bring in maybe a middle of the rotation arm, because I feel a lot better. Look, I like Drew Pomeranz as the 3rd starter. I love Drew Pomeranz as the 4th starter. And if you want to tell me Rick Porcello's your 5, fine. He's a former Cy Young winner. Maybe he gets hot. I feel a lot better if it's Sale, Price, some other guy's pitcher, some other team's pitcher, Pomeranz, Porcello, than if you're just sticking some journeymen on the back end of that rotation. I still think there is a relatively big move to be made to get another veteran MLB arm in. And let me just throw the qualifier on this. I want a guy with MLB experience. I want a guy who can eat innings. I want a guy who's pitched in a big market. I want a guy who has playoff experience. And I know I just described Clay Buchholz, not him. Anybody but him.
Guys, who's still on the market? Jake Arrieta.
And I've been saying that since December that I want them to sign this guy. Thank you, Travis.
Do you think the contract's going to be too big, though?
They're the Red Sox. It shouldn't be. They print money.
Yeah, but we know they care about it, though. We know they care about it.
Why? But this would be the perfect chance to prove to us they don't just care about being in the green financially. They care about winning a championship.
Well, they've done that, Alex. I mean, they've proven that they care primarily about winning championships. I don't think they have to make that point anymore. But to your point, if you really want to bolster the middle of that rotation, you go out and sign a veteran like Jake Arrieta.
Yeah.
But they may be thinking that Arrieta is going to want too much money, and maybe will be able to scoop him at the end of spring training. But you got to think why haven't the Yankees picked up on a guy like Jake Arrieta? When you see a free agent out there like Jake Arrieta, who has the proven championship experience in a market like Chicago, helping the Cubs win that World Series, why isn't he on a roster right now? That is, to me, people would say JD Martinez is the poster child for the Antarctic free agency that we had this past winter. But to me, it's more like Jake Arrieta. What is up with teams not even wanting a sniff of him? It's
I'll
just,
I'll say this, and maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. I've been lukewarm. I've been tepid even with Martinez on the Red Sox. I still think they'll give the Yankees a run for their money, but even with Martinez, I think the Yankees win the division. If the Red Sox go get Jake Arrieta, I have them in the final two in the AL there with the Astros. I think he would be that big of an addition because it's been so long since they have a guy like that. That, to me, he's not the same pitcher, but is up there with getting Schilling in 04. You're bringing in a guy who's been there, done that, can add some serious postseason culture to a young clubhouse.
Okay.
That, to me, would be the money signing of the offseason.
That's a great argument to be made that, and you're assuming, okay, that Arrieta is healthy enough.
Right, of course.
You're assuming that, these teams are not touching him because of any injury exposure that they might be incurring. But, I just think that if the Red Sox could go out and acquire a picture of that ilk, it would go a long way, like you're saying, into proving them a deep postseason team.
And it is worth noting he is a Boris guy. I don't think Boris directly, but he's represented by Boris's company. I would imagine it's Boris. So let me ask you guys this then. Assuming Arrieta is too injured or Scott Boris is angry with the Red Sox for not giving JD Martinez $200 million, can the Red Sox get a similar caliber pitcher through trade? Do you believe they have the tools and the guy is out there for them to do that?
Yeah, they do. I mean, the name you mentioned that's intriguing is Jackie Bradley. I think certain teams would find him to be an interesting fit. He's certainly a premier defensive center fielder, and he's shown at times, A, he has pop, and B, he is a very streaky hitter. And when he's on, he is a very dangerous hitter. The problem is when teams start feeding him a steady diet of breaking stuff and off-speed stuff, he usually falls into prolonged slumps. And a team that would acquire him is looking to shore up their defense up the middle and put him toward the bottom of the order, like the Red Sox have, to kind of limit his offensive liability and its exposure.
Jackie Bradley's the answer. We've been talking about it. I feel like it's been a topic all off season. If you get JD Martinez, who's the odd man out in the outfield, expecting him to end up playing left field at some point, maybe not every day, DH and left field though, because people got to remember we have Mookie Betts and Andrew Benintendi, left field, right field, who both can play center field if need be. They
don't want Martinez playing defense though, Nick. I mean, they definitely don't want that.
Well, they can figure it out and get somebody out there in left field. That's no problem. But Jackie Bradley is the intriguing trade piece. Because right. I think we undervalue. We've seen him. He irritates Red Sox fans because he just strikes out. You said it, Trags. Throw him a breaking ball. He can't hit it. But his defense is unbelievable, and people know that. And I think we undervalue him on the trade market. If you dangle him out there for teams, I think you can get a pretty decent return. We know Cleveland and Boston allegedly talked about a Jackie Bradley, Edwin Encarnacion trade. If Jackie Bradley can get a return like that, then who knows what he can get on the trade market for a pitcher. At least a number 3. That's all we're looking for. Just a solid number 3, and maybe even a good number 4. You have Drew Pomeranz. Again, I'm with you, Trags. I love Drew Pomeranz. But Jackie Bradley, he can get you that guy. If you want to move on from Jackie, he can definitely get you that guy. And he's going to be looking for a new deal at some point soon.
And that's another, I believe, Boris guy.
Yes, it is.
So that's somebody you're going to have to pay. Just to throw a little bone here, because I know we have a lot of Celtics fans that follow CLNS. It's literally Marcus Smart again. With Jackie Bradley Jr. over the summer is going to be all the same conversations we've had about Marcus Smart since September.
I love that analogy. And people feel about Jackie Bradley the way they feel about Marcus Smart. You love him, and then he does something, and you're like, what? What were you swinging at that pitch for? It was, at your shoulder, at your neck, and you just wildly swung at the pitch that you had no business swinging at. It's kind of like, Marcus, why are you taking that shot there? Marcus, late in the Pistons game, why are you trying to go 1-on-3 on Friday night, lose the ball and turn it over, and you sit in front of your TV going, what are you doing? I think it's an apt analogy.
It is. It is. Jackie Bradley striking out in the bottom of the 9th inning. Marcus Smart, I forget who the team was. Marcus Smart taking the ball and chucking up a 3-pointer at the end of the game when you have Kyrie Irving and Terry Rozier wide open to take that shot.
Well, and obviously leading to what happened with Marcus Smart's right hand hotel room. But I will say that both players, both Marcus Smart and Jackie Bradley, rely on their defense, and they are elite in their ability to perform defensively. And that's why both the Celtics and the Red Sox, respectively, keep those players around.
And that would make, to pull little Sean Spencer here, that would make Blake Swihart, Terry Rozier, and JD Martinez, Kyrie Irving, if I got that right. I'm not sure that I did. And oddly enough, I'm all for trading Jackie Bradley Jr. I'm not for trading Marcus Smart, but that's a conversation for another time. I want to remind everybody that this roundtable has been brought to you by SeatGeek. Visit their website or use their app in the promo code Garden Report to get a discount on your order. Again, that's SeatGeek, either .com or the app. Use the promo code Garden Report. If you've listened to this and you're curious what our beautiful faces look like, you can check them out on the CLNS YouTube channel. If you're watching this clip on YouTube, you want to hear the full roundtable, all 3 parts, you can go check it out on clnsmedia.com. Follow us on Twitter at CLNSmedia and at Red Sox Beat for more coverage. For Mike Petralia and Nick Quaglia, my name's Alex Barth. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time.